So, shall we start then? Okay, I'll start with the first question. Yeah. Bharat, what could be the answer? Cool. Okay. Yes, the answer is straightforward. The negative sign can tell you exactly what is decreasing. So mortality is basically death of an individual in the population, and emigration is basically moving out of the population. So both would decrease the numbers in Pn plus 1. So we'll move forward. Okay. Yeah. Bharat. Okay. Yeah, so wait, what? Bharat is saying C. C is okay. Okay. Why do you think Bharat it's C over there? C is the answer, sorry.
Sir, can explain, sir?
Okay. Yeah, so the answer B is correct. That's where the highest growth rate would be. So why isn't high in A? Rehanul, could you tell me why isn't it high at A? Not Bharat, Rehanul. Bharat, you can mute your So what does that mean? I mean, yeah, okay, but what does that mean? So that is not exactly true. Is that how it is? Okay, births. So suppose births and deaths are equal. Then what? Actually, it won't be equal. It's still increasing, so birth is greater than death. Yeah, it's still increasing, so births aren't less than death. That's for sure. But why is it that it's very low in the initial phase, A, and not B? Actually, births get less than deaths at C. No. Conditions remain the same. I mean, it's not like that. So because we have a carrying capacity K, that means, and it is constant throughout this whole curve, that means the conditions were same. It's not the reason. Think. It's a very logical answer to it. Bharat, you want to give it a shot? You can type if you don't want to talk, Bharat. Okay, it's not that population isn't in a reproductive phase. It's just that the population is so low that the reproductive individuals are less. Do you get the idea? I mean, do you get the point? Yeah. So if the reproductive individuals are themselves low, then the population would increase slowly. Once you get to a phase B, the reproductive individuals are like really high. The number of individuals are really high, and then that would give you a boom in the growth rate. And once you are at a stage where it's at the carrying capacity where you cannot have more than that much population, then I mean I'm not talking about human beings, I'm talking about general natural in the natural this thing system, general animals or plants. So once the optimal solution, the carrying capacity is reached, then they face this crunch of resources, and the death rates start increasing, and the birth rates start reducing as well. It comes to a constant or something, and then that's where the C stage is where it is flat. So yeah. Okay, one more thing. Where's dn by dt more negative? I mean, is it at A, B, or C? Rehan will say C. What do you think, Bharat? Is negative? Where do you think it's negative? Yeah. So that's where the numbers go down. So dn by dt is negative. Okay. We'll go to the next question. Yeah. Did you guys give answer? Oh. Okay. So both of you have a different answer. So in this particular case, what happened was this: there was this Openshia that was spreading in Australia, and to control that particular plant, they brought in this moth called Cactoblastis cactorum. Very good name. So this moth, the larvae used to feed on the Openshia cactus, and I think Openshia was not even native to Australia. Openshia is more of a American species. But what happened was, then eventually a lot of places, they were like, this event got successful. The cactus was eventually controlled, but the moth became uncontrollable later on, and people thought that the process was successful, so they introduced that moth at several other places, and all of these places the moth became invasive. So what all happened? So basically, OpenShare was a cattle fodder in America. So not America, South Africa. Sorry, somewhere. The spineless OpenShare, which is cattle fodder, so that got affected because this was, the moth was very unselective once it is to which OpenShare it feeds on. Then there were cacti that were food for native animals like the iguana. So those cacti were also targeted by this moth. And also the other problem is nobody knows what all problem can come upon an area that has introduced an invasive species. So C is also true. So actually the answer is D, all of the above. I hope that's okay. Is that okay? Okay, cool. We'll move ahead. Yeah. I think we have talked about this, but yeah, I've repeated this again, I suppose. Bharat? Yeah, that's true actually. It is B, Rachel Carson. She was like the first person to talk about ecotoxicology that Sir is talking about. And basically, what she found out was, I mean, the book's name Silent Spring is because there was a considerable reduction in the dawn chorus. People know what dawn chorus is? DAWN CHORUS. Dawn chorus. Do you know what that is? Can you guess? It's about birds. Yeah, birds singing, but when?
Two different characteristics.
Yeah, but when? What time? At dawn. Yeah. So, but everyone knows about this, right? I mean, there is a particular time of the day when you're just waking up, and there are a lot of birds making a lot of ruckus outside your windows. That's basically dawn chorus. Chorus. That's usually birds. I mean, just after the sunrise, they sing all together, defining their territories as Bharat said, or basically attracting a mate or something like that. And it's like this small period of time. After that, it becomes very uneven. So birds may sing or may not sing through the whole day. So that is dawn chorus. So Rachel Carson found that the dawn chorus of these birds in that area in America somewhere, she found that it was drastically reduced, and she stepped out to talk about why it has reduced, and then she deduced that it was basically because of a particular pesticide that she was talking about. Which one? Which pesticide was she talking? Was the silent spring because of which pesticide? I think we have talked about this a lot of time. Even Sir has talked about it. Yeah. So it is DDT. So basically, DDT has this property of bioaccumulation. So if DDT is sprayed on the plants, the larvae and the insects consume the plants. They are consumed by the birds and the smaller birds. The primary consumer birds. Sorry, not the primary. The secondary consumer birds are eaten further by the tertiary consumers, like the tertiary consumers could be like what? What animals can we think about as tertiary consumers? And if you're talking about catching birds, no. Vultures are not tertiary consumers. Vultures are basically decomposers, so they are at all the levels. Or retriever. Raptors, yeah. Raptors are tertiary consumers. So she found that the raptors, the eggshell thickness has. So so basically, the numbers are reducing very heavily, and uh, so it was because of their eggshells getting thinner and thinner, and them breaking and them untimely getting hatched even before the chicks were mature enough to be hatched, and that's where uh, the whole number of birds were coming down, and that's why the whole silent spring came up by Rachel Carson. So yeah, she's a pioneer in that sense. So yeah, we'll go ahead, move to the next question. Yeah. Rehanu says C. Bharat, what's your answer? Yeah. So everyone knows where Kasargod district is. So that's in Kerala. So yeah. So I don't have to explain that. Endosulfan pesticide was used on the crops cashew in this district a lot, and it was lately found that I think it was banned in 2011, but it was lately found that a lot of deformities in the newborns, complications of family members have happened during this period, and yeah, that's when the Supreme Court also intervened and banned it properly. So that was in the district of Kerala. Yeah. Next question is good. Bharat. Yeah, so teratogenic is actually that causes abnormality in fetal development during pregnancy. So yeah, it has nothing to do with Tuatara lizard family. So that is clear, and we can move on to the next question. Yeah. Okay, Bharat says D. Rehanul. Okay. So, so does shade actually encourage native regeneration? Are we sure of that? Okay. Uh, okay. And why do you think that is? And what do you mean by that? I mean, okay, cool. So, okay, and but there are some species that grow well in, I mean, open also, right? And those are not native species. Okay, yeah, both are possible. It's true, but yeah. So tropical forests have usually this property where it's not so common in temperate forests though, where shade is not actually useful as or shade is not actually beneficial for regeneration of saplings and seedlings. It's a good property to identify in tropical forests where some of the uh, the non-pioneer species, the what are the non-pioneer species? I mean, what are they called otherwise? The species that are not pioneer species. Cereal species? No, Rehanul, they're not called cereal species. Cereal could be anything, right? I mean, it could be hydrosphere, it could be samosphere, it could be what else? Yeah, petrosphere. So they are called climatic species. They are the climax species. They're the species that come at the climax stage of of whatever succession. So they're the climactic species, and they are usually not dispersed by. I mean, they're usually long living, K selected. They have bigger fruits that are dispersed by bigger animals like elephants and I mean like that, and so they are the climatic species. So they generally grow in the shade, and they are well adapted to grow in the shades of their own parent trees. Yeah, so that's one reason. Then yeah, so vegetation structure could also invite seed dispersing birds and mammals. And yeah, there could be one more question. So, what do you think would be more beneficial if you're talking about plantations? What would you think would be more beneficial, having a monocultural plantation or having a mixed species plantation? You understood the difference, right? I said, okay, I'll just, okay. Monocultural plantation or plantation with mixed species. I mean, why do you think Bharat mixed species should be better? You can speculate. There have been studies, but you can speculate. Why do you think mixed species should be better? Oh, oh.
Due to biodiversity.
No, no, no. But so when we're talking about exotic plant, I mean, when you're talking about like plantation, I was talking about exotic species, not the native species. So, what benefit do you get with having mixed species in a plantation that is for that is for restoration of native forest underneath? Do you get my point? So like if we are so basically what I'm trying to say is that the forest restoration can happen even without the removal of plantation would be exotic tree like something like Bharat, could you name some of the exotic trees that are used for plantations, or Jyotsana if you want to? What are the exotic species, guys? I mean, exotic is basically something that is not native, which are used across our country. Some of the exotic species. Sorry?
Eucalyptus. Eucalyptus.
Yeah, eucalyptus is one of the very famous exotic species that is used. So, yeah. So, having eucalyptus, okay, there's another species called Acacia auriculiformis, which is not native to our country. So, having eucalyptus and acacia both together, how is that beneficial? And having just eucalyptus not so beneficial? Not the biodiversity part. Don't say it, because I mean biodiversity. We want more native species to be there, not exotic species. So how does it help? Do you want more non-native species in your this thing?
No, sir.
Exactly. So how does it help having two or two or more non-native species as the canopy, and instead of having one species in the canopy? Okay.
So one species.
So you would think one species would be better. Okay. Now, why do you think Rehanu two or more should be better? I mean, okay, the answer has something to do with option B. So, what I'm saying is, or my question is it better to have two or more species, non native species, in the canopy of a plantation that is used for restoration of forest, or having just one species, monocultural plantation, for a restoration of forest? And Rehanul says more chances of regeneration. But Rehanul, we are talking about non-native species over here, but we want to regenerate native species. So how is two or more non-native species in the canopy helpful in regeneration of native species? We don't want non-native species to regenerate. We want native species to regenerate, but the canopy is of non-native species, two or more, say eucalyptus or Acacia auriculiformis. But we want our native species like I don't know. I mean, could be some Shola forest species. So some forest species. So okay, so vegetation structure is basically that's where it comes all. So we'll have, so a monoculture species would have very similar vegetation structure. It'll have very similar kind of structure. That would mean could be possible that you don't have any stem at the for like 3 or 4 meters, and then suddenly the canopy starts, it broadens like that, and it would be similar throughout the plantation. So probably the birds that are of understory birds won't get to or won't be invited into this plantation, because the understory, there is no vegetation structure for the understory birds to sit. So mostly the birds of higher canopy will be there, and they may or may not be fruit dispersing. Whereas if you have different species, what happens? Rehanul, could you tell me? I mean, Bharat, Jyotsana. If you have different species, what can happen? So you got my first point, right? If there is only one kind of species, say eucalyptus, so eucalyptus would have like a straight trunk, and then it suddenly widens and becomes a canopy, right? So what happens is if all the trees have the straight trunk till 3 or 5 meter, there would be no stem or nothing to sit on for the birds, which are understory birds. Understory is basically 0 to 5 meter. I mean, technically. So that would mean, so the understory birds are not. I mean, it's not very attractive, or eucalyptus species, eucalyptus stand would not be very attractive for understory species. Whereas it could be possible some of the raptor birds are sitting on top. But when it's a mixed species, how does it help? Do you think do you think the species would have similar heights and vegetation structure?
Sir, which species has different structures, sir? Plants.
Like
Like,
eucalyptus are tall, and they are straight, and whereas acacia mearnsey, which is like a invasive species, that's not very tall, and it forms a canopy at a very low height, so like 4 or 5 meter, whereas eucalyptus can go up to, without breaking into a canopy, for like 13 meters or something. Then there are other species also, which, like, I mean, do you get my point? So basically, if there are different structures, that would be inviting for different kinds of birds. That would be
oh,
inviting for different kinds of birds, and different kinds of birds eat different kinds of fruits and,
fruits.
and vegetation. So that would mean that different kinds of seeds would be falling on the floor, right? The seed rain would be different. The seed rain would be varied. The species richness of the seed rain would be different, and the species richness of the saplings and seedlings that come out would be different, or would be more varied, would be high. So that would mean that vegetation structure of the non-native plantation I mean, should be more varied. So that would be inviting for different kinds of species. So, do you get my point? Both of you, three of you, Jyots and also. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. I think this would be the last question or the second last question. Yeah. There's a very yeah, still a question. I think you should know about this. You sure, Rehanul? Do you know of their work? Okay. Okay. Yeah, Wildlife Conservation Society, but I Bharat said A. Bharat, why do you know of their work, NCF? Bharat, have you heard of them, NCF? Okay, I'm copying a link. If you guys want to check up on their work, so these guys have been NCF is actually the answer, not the Wildlife Conservation Society. I think WCS and CWS definitely works on elephants a lot, and I mean they do work on a lot of other things, but elephant and yeah, has been their main this thing. WCS, I'm not very sure what they work on, but NCF definitely works. NCF works on a lot of projects, marine, Eastern Himalaya, Western Himalaya, Western Ghats. But this one is one of their projects where they're reviving the rainforest, and this happens in Valparai, where they have a nursery for all the native species of shola, and they have about a hectare or so of forest that they have restored. And yeah, I mean, with the restoration process there is a like a drastic change in the in basically the species of birds that you see, or species of animals that you see. So there's a non-restored plot and there's a restored plot. So both of them have this drastic difference in the species richness of animals. So yeah, that's one thing. So yeah, you guys should check out this NCF. They also look for people. I mean, they have regular openings. So if you are interested in working in this field, you should. Yeah, National Conservation Foundation. Mm, wait, what's it called? Conservation Foundation. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. The last question, I think. Yeah. So Bharat and Rehanu say B. What does Jyotsana has to say? And Samrid, do you do you know the answer for this question? I didn't hear a peep from you. Okay, so those two don't want to participate. So okay, so bioremediation is basically biological system for removing environmental pollutants. Do you know of plants that are used for bioremediation? Do you guys know any species of plants that are used for bioremediation? Okay, I don't know about that, but yeah, I mean, my species was mostly very common one, the Canna indicus, indica or indicus. So barley. Okay, you sure barley has bioremediation properties, Bharat? What is the background of your? I mean, you guys like what's your educational background?
Sir, microbiology. Yeah.
Ah, and you, Raihanul? Biology. Okay. Okay, interesting. I mean, Jyotsana and Samrid, you if you want, you can tell me. Otherwise, I don't. I mean, I'm not forcing. Okay, cool. So, okay. So yeah, that's the end of the session. I mean, if you guys have any other question, then you can surely tell me. Are you okay with what is being taught? Yeah. Okay. Sure. Cool. Let me. Okay then. Yeah. I'll end this session. We can. Yeah. We can. Probably this would be the second last session. I think there's a revision class that is supposed to happen the next week, and that would be the end of the session. So, yeah. I mean, it's high time. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. If I can't answer it right now, I can come up with the answer in the next session. So next session will be the last session. So yeah, okay, cool then. My name's was there on the advertisement by meet. Sorry, by the NPTEL people. They have my name up there. All right. I don't think I have any more questions for you. I can think of something, but if you want to wait, okay. Someone has come. Hello, Manjusha. We were just wrapping up with this was the last question of today. So, yeah. What do you think the answer is, Manjusha? Okay, you're right. Okay. Yeah. Bharat and Jyotsana, if you don't want to stay back, then it's okay if you leave. But I'll just repeat the questions for Manjusha a bit. Yeah. Yeah. This is the first question, Manjusha. So PN is the population at first year. PN plus 1 is the population in the next year. What could be the answer, Manjusha?
That is mortality plus emigration.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. We'll move on to the next question. Yeah.
On detail equals to carbon. It's B.
Sure. That's nice. Okay. This is more like a general knowledge question, but
It's C.
it's actually D, all of the above, because
Okay, all.
yeah, OpenShare
Okay.
is it's a cattle fodder in some countries. OpenShare is also an food for native animals in some countries. So yeah. So
Yes, that is all.
this is a moth, particular moth, which has become invasive in certain areas. Okay. This is again one of the
It's
yeah.
fragile organisms.
So Rachel Carson is
Actually, I
this.
don't know the answer of this.
Okay, that's okay. But it's basically B, effect of pesticides on birds. If you have this, I mean, Rachel Carson is the first pioneer person to talk about DDT and their effects on birds. So her book is called The Silent Spring. It's actually a very famous book for people who are more into environmental science or more into this link between environmental science and ecology. So yeah, it's an old book though. It is, I think, published in 1940, 40s or 50s. So they talk about effects of pesticides, how biomagnification happened, and birds at the higher level, the higher order, trophic level, were affected the most, and their eggshells became thin, and yeah, there was premature hatching of a lot of birds in that sense, and that's where the number of birds it decreased for a while. So yeah, that is what the book is about. I'll on to the next question. Yeah.
Maybe at Kerala?
Yeah. So Kasargod district is in Kerala, and yeah, there have been news. I mean, there are certain. I mean, a lot of news in the past 4 years where they have been talking about this endosulfan pesticides that was used on cashew plantation in the state. I mean, it's been used in other states also, but yeah, yeah.
I think none of the above.
No, actually, teratogenic is the answer is B. It causes abnormality in fetal development during pregnancy. So that has to something to do with the pesticides that is used and all. So like endosulfan is a teratogenic uh, substance or yeah chemical. So it actually causes abnormality during fetal development. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah, actually true. So people generally think that to restore forest they have to remove plantations first and then plant saplings or seedlings in the barren land. But that's actually not a good practice as such because you have soil that gets eroded immediately after rains and yeah, and if you're talking about if you're talking about just native regeneration, then there are a lot of plants already around the plantation, which but probably the forest department or whoever is doing the restoration would only focus on like 5 or 6 native plants, and you would never know exactly where they are sitting and all. So where they actually, so they might require certain environmental factors, like they might require a wet soil or they might require like a top of the mountain where the soil is too dry but thin and stuff like that. So um, it's actually better if you don't, I mean this is particularly true of tropical forests where most of the saplings and seedlings of most of the forest species love shade when they're growing. They once they are grown to a particular height, they can outgrow the canopy trees and they can reach for the sun. But initially, in the initial phases of growth, they actually love shade and they don't grow well in the open areas. So yeah, so all of the above is the answer. I think we are coming to. I'm not sure, Majusha, if this question is a very general knowledge kind of a question, but you can give it a shot.
I don't know, sir.
Okay, so there's this NGO that is in Valparai. They deal with restoration of forests, and what they have done is they have created nurseries, and they have. So if you want to look up, uh, yeah, this is their ID. If
Is
you,
it in the module, sir?
it's not in the module. It's just an extra information that I'm giving. It is the module is restoration though, so you should actually.
Okay.
So NCF, the answer is NCF, the link is there. So this is more for your information. If you want to continue with this field, do something else, something of that sort. So that's why this is like an extra information that I've given. So yeah. Anyways, this ninth question you have already figured it out. So yeah, these are all the questions that I have. Yeah, I hope. Is that okay if we discontinue the session now? Can we call it a day? Oh, people have.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Aparna, you're a little late. We are at the end of the session. I think I'm going to end the session for everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is the second last session, and the next session that would be the revision session. So, okay, cool. Bye. Good night.